power in just a multitude of the programming, the workshops, the conversations, the creative collaboration, essentially, over the last few months, and it's really meant the world to me. When I was a budding writer performing all over Columbus, Steve, you know, Steve was my Mosaic / Christopher Columbus teacher, and it's just an honor every time I have an opportunity to connect with folks in the community. When I was deep in my work, getting my MFA in New York City, through the many arts experiences that I've been gifted in this particular city, I never imagined that this was possible, right? That a life full of writing and art and creativity was possible. But because of this residency, I'm made known of what is possible. I never imagined being in this room, or being in any room where something I said could spark a young person's imagination, or that who I am and what I represent could be a reflection of the possibility of an artist's life. I didn't know it was possible to build a life rooted in art, writing, and creativity simply because I spoke up for myself, because I asked for help, because I shared my voice and shared my truth. So tonight we'll honor that journey. You'll hear readings from me and from our incredible guest artist, Alisha Skeel, followed by a conversation about our writing process and the ways in which we navigate creative life. We'll then open the space for you for questions, reflections, and insights. And then I just want to remind us of our word mural activity. So I thank you all so much for adding to our word mural so far. We will close the evening with a word mural. But you have permission, right? If a word, if an idea inspires you throughout the evening, of course, please continue adding to our word mural. And with that being said, I just want to introduce our guest artist, who's going to have an opportunity to come up and read and share a few poems. Alisha Skeel is an autistic poet and writer based in Columbus, Ohio. Her work explores themes of self-discovery, curiosity, mental health, and the complexity that comes with being human. Writing helps her process and make sense of the unique experience of living life as a neurodiverse creator. She hopes that by sharing her work more widely, her words will reach the people who need them most. Can we give a huge round of applause?
Thing that I decided to do in July. I got a typewriter, my first typewriter recently, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So I decided I was going to write 31 poems in July, so a poem a day, and I was going to do it on my typewriter because I figured it would give me a chance to just not be able to revise. I am an avid reviser. So I wanted to start out by reading a couple of very short poems that are this past month. Keep in mind, since we're talking about writing process today, I thought this would be a fun way to share some of my unrevised work that kind of came out stream of consciousness versus things I've spent more time with. So you'll get kind of a feel. This one I feel like sums me up as a person, so I wanted to start here. I'm not Alisha, I'm Dorothy. I proclaimed that I was someone else entirely at only 2 years old. I waltzed around on hardwood floors, a blur of blue and white gingham, our little fluffy cat scurrying away, the tiny stuffed terrier in her mouth a prize. I only existed to sparkle, until I learned that shining too bright made others uncomfortable with their own reflective qualities. I lost her for a while, that little girl in 2 big plastic shoes that clapped across kitchen floors and knew exactly what she wanted to be. You might hear that story and think, I was just a girl playing dress up, already pretending to be someone I wasn't. But I just see a brave little girl who loved glitter and song and can make magic out of rayon and hard plastic.
Yeah.
I have so many of these, I just grabbed a couple. All right, this one is is called Alternatives for Goodbye. Starting to sing your favorite song and pausing. The last word of the chorus left unsung by the person who used to complete it. A string of blue bubbles, heart-poured, spilled lines and lines and lines of words. 3 dots that jump and then disappear. Words stuck to your tongue, the ones you never let fly from your lips to kiss their ears, now placed in a balloon marked for the sky instead. All right, now on to the good stuff. Give me a minute here. All right. Also, please excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, so I'm struggling a little bit with projecting. Thank you for turning me up a little bit. All right. Yelp reviews for all my past lovers, or whatever it is you call them in high school. Cynical, biting, always asked for more than I was ready to give, found a way to complain about canoes and everything, really. I ended things while you feigned shock and tried to drag me down to your pit of despair with you. 1 star. Clogged up the phone line for hours singing, "She's so lucky, she's a star," at the top of our lungs. Your heart harmonized so well with mine. We swayed to Savage Garden as you kissed my forehead in the rain. You came out to me years later. 4 stars. Taught me that kisses taste better under starlight. You stroked my cheek and said I was wise beyond my years, all 14 of them. Rose-colored church camp glasses faded with 1,299 miles between us. 3 stars. Rode your bike to my house daily for weeks, so you could kiss me in my basement when Brendan Fraser kissed Rachel Wise, except we didn't stop when they did. You evaporated into thin air when your parents found out. 2 stars. Magic incarnate, all soft curves and easy laughter. I longed to memorize the flavor of your lip gloss by heart. Gangly arms linked up, secure, hips swing in sync, but you weren't a boy. And I had not yet equipped myself to be hell-proof. 5 stars. Note, reviewer did not participate as agreed, which may impact the validity of their rating. Sprinkled glitter in my eyes and told me that's what pleasure felt like. But all I saw were stars and pain and true love when I gazed upon your glory. You lied about why you left, but sunk in your teeth again and again and again when I offered up desperate, bite-sized servings of me. You broke my brain so bad, I'm still gluing it back together. 0 stars. Do not recommend. Oh, you got me a little emotional. I haven't read that one yet. Ooh. How you all doing out there? Thank you for coming. All right. This one is called Under Construction. Your spiritual assembly begins in the drafting phase. Soft paper irons beneath rough hands, the scroll kept from curling in towards the sinkhole of damnation. No legend present to ground you, only stark white lines on forget-me-not paper, your child mind wishing for the power to magic wand fairy dust their best laid plans for you into existence. Feminist foreman and patriarchal architect wrestle for your faithfulness, demanding you to like and subscribe, claiming theirs to be the one and only true scale for a life well lived. Discipline is key, they say, so you meticulously map out the chambers of your heart, diagramming each nook and cranny, or is it ventricle and atrium, as they would say instead? Words rolling lollygag like sawdust on your tongue, not knowing which to chew up and spit out or let drain down to your belly, their deeper meanings desperate to be digested. Their holy, holy, holy rules threaten you with failing before you can begin. Instructions lined with too sharp edges shoved too soon into your too small hands, commanding your bleeding, unstructured frame to decide. Which model fits better? Which model better fits? Which model benefits you the most? Spinning like a top, you point, grandmother cloaked wolf choice made, a blind commitment inked in blood beneath your loosely sketched out dreams. There. They will never see you coming, a small work in progress child that will one day learn the shape and the weight of big bad lies on paper. Then, and only then, can you begin to discern the sound of control dolled up as love beneath their lilting tone as they say, fear not, and do not question, for it will all make sense, it will all make sense, it will all make sense, my child, once construction is underway. All right, this is a recent one, but it has become one of my favorites. I cried over a word when I was 3. Well, more than once, really. I was always overcome by the way their small bodies wriggled as they ascended onto hot sun pavement, trying desperately not to drown. My heart lurched into action, tiny hands just a haphazard search and rescue, palms scooping in a frenzy, knees scraped red against rough concrete. You should have seen the horror that crisscrossed my mother's face when she found me feral and sobbing, worms poking out between my feeble fingers. I squeaked out that they were scared, lost without eyes, swirling on instinct that even they couldn't understand, as large rubber-soled shoes threatened to squish them flat. Her spindly arms knit me into her motherly cocoon, reassuring me that worms could find their way in this wayward world. I was too young then to know, scientifically, that worms are all nerves and aortic arches, hearts, whose segments could be severed at a moment's notice. But I did know, in my guts, that we were a Wrigley kind of kin. For you see, the softest, most vulnerable things always had a way of burrowing deep down into the channels of my heart and making a dirt bed nest out of me. And I'll do one more for you. Hand up, cool. All right. This is not like me to go off of my list that I prepared, but trying to go with what feels good. All right. This was one I wrote recently, where I actually met Cynthia at the poetry slam that we did. So yeah, I really love this one. This is called All Hands on Deck. These hands, they are filled with blood pumped out from a bleeding heart, never pricked or punctured, but born wide open and gushing with a love so full it floods down the rivers of my lifeline. There is power here, more than I was told a quiet, polite little girl should hold, hands tied up tight meant not to wriggle free from captivity. But oh, when I set loose, there is no stopping the things that these small hands could do, like reach instead of grab, shield instead of harm, touch lives instead of taking them away. We need more hands on deck because the ship is sinking and the orchestra is still playing the same chipper tune, and I am screaming and screaming and screaming that those they see as the least of these are dying. No, they are being slain by a nation who, pinky raised, promenades around the world in a false waltz of innocence. Yes, the skin is rough and stained, work-worn and tough like meat, willingly curling into fists, armed to defend at the ready. But hands, you see, are made up of more than their sandpaper top sheet. Down at their core, there is an open bed, feather-fluffed and thick, offering a softer sanctuary, palms stretched wide and ready to catch, to carry, to hold. Pause. Count on two hands each of these 54 bones that rattle with power, yearning to be put to a use so good you don't know how to stop stretching toward it, even as you shake in your boots. Listen. Can you hear it too? The drumming in your heart, each beat, a refrain declaring that you must let your purpose-filled fuel feed the fire of your soul. It begs you to not let hate and despair at the state of the air extinguish the potential roar of your impact before you can ever light the match.
Friends, can y'all give another huge round of applause for Alisha Skeel? I met Alisha at a poetry slam that happened this past summer through Thurber House / Jefferson Avenue Center, and it was the Mandela Day Poetry Slam. Alisha came up to me and mentioned that she had never before slammed. Yes? Yes. First time slammer, and I just found it so courageous and brave that you were putting yourself out there, right? That you were finding community or doing your best to find community in the writing space. So friends, can we give another huge round of applause to Alisha? It takes a lot to get up here and share your truth, right? So I know we are limited on time. I'm going to share a few poems and then we will jump into the writer talk. If that's cool, can we say cool? Cool. Thank you. Okay. What a time to be alive and call yourself creative, an artist, and responsible alive, and witness the horizon, the breakthrough, because what will you say when they ask you where you were, when they came for us, when they ask who you fought for, when it was too heavy to bear? A life is a life is a life is a life sometimes. I am caught between being the poet or being the poem. It is the difference between being fire and being water. I do not think you understand, my sweet. I do not want to be the poem. I do not want to be a ship. Look me in the eyes. Being the poem means, being the experience means the carrying of bodies, the quiver in my hands, the heavy, having touched the truth, the line break, the song, the word, the split my mouth, eating itself. Do you know the violence that takes place when my tongue seems to say what I am, the confused looks, the probing, all of its beauty? Sometimes my poems are filled with water, and I want to be in my lover's arms. Do you know how many people have asked what kind of heartbreak it was, even with my thick coating. But have you known the trembling that comes with the world wanting you to be one thing, but you knowing you are, honey, a life is a life is a life is a life. Sometimes I am sore from the writing and the gift, but isn't that why they call it that? Because to show the world and yourself would mean unraveling. So here I am in this familiar city with life in my mouth, dry pages of books against my chest, tear-stained cheeks, and I am tired of pretending that when the suns change into weather, that I would not be a poem, that I would not be a poet, that I had not wanted to turn back, to run back many times before. Thank y'all so much for listening. I just realized I think my voice is going in and out. Oh my goodness. Okay. So interesting. Artists need our voices, right? Like this is our instrument. I don't know. I haven't been yelling recently or anything. I don't know what's going on. Okay. So the next piece I'm going to do for you all is throughout the duration of this residency, I had an opportunity to teach a warring group of 6th through 8th grade middle school boys at Berwick Alternative Elementary. These boys specifically deal with IEPs, they have learning disabilities, and I had the really amazing task of going into their classroom and teaching them poetry, right? And this experience taught me that there are, or has to be, different ways to access poetry. And so it challenged me as a teaching artist. It grew me as an educator. And I wrote this piece in honor of them. It's a really short piece that I want to share with you all. It's entitled Lions. To the brave-spirited 6th through 8th grade students at Berwick, whom I had the distinct pleasure of writing poems with during my adaptation, integration, and arts residency made possible through our Possible Ohio. Lions. There is joy in the soft announcement of a young boy calling himself a lion. Another says he is powerful, the other a king. I am not sure I have ever heard such a joy, either in discovery or declaration. You see, it is not just about what he said, but more that he said it. That to speak means you become, that by saying he was becoming. And when a boy becomes powerful, we all know what that means. When a boy uses his voice, come gather and see the mountain in his mouth, the words he calls poetry, the sound reaching you, the light growing something like hope. When there is no fear of declaring who we are, when we dare to dream and think and create, when we learn in spaces brimming with possibility, we become something greater than ourselves, and there we find the joy, and there art is made possible. Thank you all. That was that piece. So this next piece is kind of long. It's entitled Belonging, and it is themed on my identity. So I'm originally from Ghana, West Africa. Do we have any Ghanaians in the house? Any Africans in the house? No? Dang. Do we have any friends who have visited Ghana before? No? Dang. Do we have any friends who are interested in visiting Ghana? Yes. Thank you. Dang. Okay. So my identity always shows up in my work. This is a longer piece. It's entitled Belonging. The first time I went home, my cousin said I was only a Santi because my mother tells me so. Osao, free hat, they meant I could not live in one place and there belong somewhere else. So I gathered all of my first attempts at tree and asked in a language broken near the edges of my mouth, how could this be? The hope of floating has carried me so far, and all of it belongs to me. Even village roads, the color of papyrus roots, all the trotros honking and honking, a rooster's morning tune, the tree my father broke his back trying to climb belongs to me. Hawkers farmers assembled under the June day clouds to sell pure water sachets, sugar cane, each small round peanut, the tarnished sky spreading across my skin like an open palm. Listen, I think this must be it. The rest that was promised us, where all of it belongs to us. Across city skylines and hard air, the mango sun thick and growing overhead, people whose tongues summon our names without breaking it. Yes, this belongs to us too. The farmlands tendered by generations of gentle hands, the wind soft caress of red dust, the voices cutting through the heat to find us. What I am trying to say is, home is what you make of it. A name is a name regardless of its spelling. Our identity is found blooming in every corner of this room. Home is not a place kept in some sort of better shape. Home is a color or something resembling water. What I am trying to say is, what difference is land to an open river if we are unable to cross both? This is what I think we are trying to say too. When we write or whisper or tell the truth, we speak to those who swore their need to be with us was greater than our need to be with ourselves. Give me a tale, true or not, in which we speak a new language, hum a new sound for our identity to take on a new meaning. Today, my identity, your identity, we, us, our identity takes on a new meaning. So does home, so does country, so does community. What I am trying to say is, the ocean will stay an ocean even after it eats the land, and all we have left is room to plant our art, our names, our faces, our joy blooming joyfully in every direction. We are trying to say we carry our identities with us, and all of it belongs to us. And what matters is not how beauty arrives, but that it comes. What matters is not how beauty arrives, but that it comes home. Thank you all so much. I'm going to share two more final pieces, and then we'll jump into the writer talk. This one is on the varying kinds of what it means to be at home, and this piece explores my relationship with my father, who is back home, who actually lives back home in Ghana. I remember how Ghana smells. A faint, distinctive heat nestled in the chaos of sound and dust. My face likens into a full moon, and I am back in my father's living room. The walls of his threadbare house are painted a tart green, and the areas where repairs have been made leave the rest to ruin. Even in the darkness that is outside, I find pebble stones in his compound where the plants do not grow. Just a small and shy tomato bush that after many rainy seasons has finally mustered a sprout. I bent to pluck a cherry tomato, then lift it to my nose. Every day, my mother calls asking if I spoke to my father. And in between the questions, her remarks were a chorus of, "Mommy, he just can't believe his youngest daughter is in Ghana. The least you could do is see him. He's sad you didn't stay with him." So here I am now, entering his house with my hands full, obliging to gift bearing as caretaking. I find all that's missing from the compound inside the house as I marvel at the muted green walls, recalling the last time I came empty-handed. My father emerges from the back room, showered and rested, roaring something about clearing the hallway. He smiles, his wide, gap-teeth smile when he sees me. The one only eye of all his children did not inherit. An eye in a stiff body, clasped hands in closed mouth. Language is a porcelain plate on my tongue, and I am reminded that after crossing many oceans, this is the place my mother says I come from, the place I should call home. I see Ghana in my dreams sometimes, and it is an often dark night driving with my father in his light blue Toyota 4Runner. The darkness is thick,
as is most nights in West Africa, so much that if you raise your hand in the distance, you cannot see your own fingers. The dimness of this night is no different. I turn to my left and realize my father is a good man. It took a long time for me to understand this.
Thank you, friend. Thank you, thank you. I have one last and final piece dedicated to the library. I was really thinking on like my journey as a writer and realized that as a young person, the library was really a safe space for me, right? Do we have any friends? Do I have any friends in the house I can share that thoughts, right? That libraries are safe spaces, right? You can hide in the book stacks. You can discover yourself. And the library really was that place for me. I just found it interesting that it came full circle and served as that place for me during this residency as well. And so this piece is entitled A Quiet Place, and it opens up with a quote: "A library is a focal point, a sacred place to a community," by Ursula K. Le. The library is a quiet place. And in the bookish dark of quiet, in the welcoming smile of a librarian, in the wonderful odor of new books and old, in the enchanted imagination of literature itself, in the boy whose first book was so big, he was carried to far away places he could only dream about. Here lives a joy. And in the quiet, we ask to borrow stories so that we might tell our own. We make new reading friends, perhaps. We see a girl who finds great secrets with each page that turns. We borrow, always walk away holding something in our arms. No one spends time here in the quiet without being changed. Mostly, your life and mine will be made up of voices and images and stories on some shelf waiting to be shared. In the quiet, we share ourselves too. We find a world somewhere out there, and when the wardrobe opens, we walk through. But no lions or witches or fear awaits us. Just a book, keeping within it a very big, very long story of everything. We walk through in the quiet, tiptoeing on truth. We walk through, gently walking, knowing there will always be more. Thank y'all so much for listening. Give yourselves a huge round of applause. So, thank you. We have a little bit of time to kind of transition. Feel free to take care of yourselves. If you need to use the restroom, grab some water. Just give us 5-ish minutes or so to transition into our writer talk, as well as our Q&A, and then we will close out the evening. Are we doing good? Yeah. Feeling good? Feeling great? Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I want to make sure we are respecting time as this event goes until 8 p.m. Once again, friends, how are we doing? All right. Good. Thank y'all so much once again for kind of joining us, not tonight, not just tonight, but any other kind of like workshops and programming. Like, it really meant the world to be in this community, to meet so many new faces, to just experience folks, what they were writing, what they were producing. So it's just been an incredible honor once again to be here. So yes, let's give another round of applause to Alisha Skeel, my guest artist, for being here today. Thank you, Alisha, for joining me in the conversation. I felt like we could have a quick kind of informal conversation about our writing processes, even really this idea of what it means to kind of write in community or be in community with others. And then we're going to open it up to you all for any questions if you do have any. But the first question that I jotted down really quickly, and we might not even get through all these questions, but how would you describe your writing process these days? Like, has it changed over time for you? I know when we first kind of were mingling here, you were like, this is all new for me, right? Yeah. And I thought it might be like really cool to have a conversation with a writer that I'm just kind of being in community with, right? It would have been easier for me to pick a long-time friend, right? A long-time writer who, I was familiar with their work, but I thought it might be interesting to be in conversation with you. And so
Yeah, how has your kind of writing process changed over time, or what do you find yourself doing these days?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been taking writing seriously, I would say for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Which I have learned is like, it means I'm a baby writer still, which is wild that it takes that long, but I do really feel like it has taken that long. So I have built up over time the ability to, and I guess the consistency to write something every day, whether that's doing green pages, whether that's, spitting out a typewriter column. I've just started to kind of just like push past the idea that I have to wait for creativity to strike to write. And I think that has been the biggest piece that has like given me hope at becoming a better writer. Because I think for a long time I really believed, especially when I was younger, that you could only be a successful writer if you were like having these great ideas all the time and they just came out, right? Like it was like you had this great idea and it just came out beautifully and that was the end. Like that's how I always thought it was growing up. And I think being in community with other writers, I've learned that it is more than that. It is showing up, it is trying new things. I just learned about a hermit crab poem this week and it totally blew my mind. I wrote a poem that read like a doctor's note. It's just like so fun. So I think it's just been cool to open myself up to possibility outside of just pure creative inspiration. There's like, I saw somebody recently said, self-discipline, a better way to say self-discipline is self-devotion. And I feel like that's really where I've landed with my writing practices. It's like a devotional practice for me to just like connect with myself and be like, what's my brain gonna come up with today? Let's see where it can go.
Yeah.
Self-devotion is really powerful.
Oh my goodness. Like instead of, like if we're exchanging the word discipline with devotion, that communicates to me a deeper commitment and accountability to myself and honoring to myself, to make sure that I'm returning to the page or returning to whatever it is in my mind that I have to kind of dump. So a friend recently introduced me to the concept of mind dumps. Have you ever heard of mind dumps at all? Anyone? Okay. So mind dumps are this idea that you can just kind of speak endlessly, and I personally do it in a phone, a recording device of some sort, and I find myself doing it in the morning or in the evenings, where I'm just, it's like a stream of thought. I mean, just whatever it is that I'm feeling, whatever it is that I'm experiencing, and it doesn't have to look any particular type of way. It doesn't have to fit into the shape or the container of a hermit crab poem, right? It's just whatever it is that I'm experiencing and feeling at the time. And I find it so interesting to have all these access points to writing, right? Sometimes to have to open up a laptop might be intimidating, or to have to report to the page at 6 a.m. every day might be intimidating. So I just found that like throughout my life, I'm incorporating writing. So if I'm driving somewhere, I'm mind dumping, right? Like I'm rehearsing or performing in my car or in the shower endlessly. And so that's what my writing process really has become. Yeah, it's been an interesting one as well. So next question, what usually sparks a new piece for you? An image, a sound, a line, a feeling?
Great question. I feel like it's usually a line for me. I've had a couple of poems pop into my head fully formed, which is the weirdest experience. But usually it's like a line that just pops into my brain and I have to like search around for either my phone or a piece of paper to write it down before I lose it. And I just kind of see where it goes. So, and like when I was doing my typewriter poems in July, I had a couple of days where I decided, like I would sit down and kind of feel into what I had capacity for. So I think that's the other thing I've really worked on is like letting myself recognize my capacity for the day. Like, do I have capacity to revise a piece today? Sometimes that's really difficult to do. Do I have capacity to create something new? It's just different. So I gave myself permission to use prompts if I needed them. Sometimes prompts do it for me, sometimes there's nothing there. And sometimes I would just sit down and something would come out. If I was feeling, you know, there was a day that I had some old grief coming up, that just poured out, you know? So I think it's just, I just give myself space to process what I need to put on the page. And I guess what my soul needs that day, and lean into that.
Yeah, that's super duper important. Yes, there's a lot of people who kind of wait for inspiration for whatever poem it be. I've heard that it's not just about the writing process; it's about the experiencing of life as well, so that you can have something to write about.
Yes,
You have, just the content, so to speak, that you have to actually go out and live. I think for me, it's really become, because I'm in community with other writers, it's become like when I hear another writer do a particular kind of thing, I want to go experience that and experiment with that too. So it's like kind of finding inspiration with others and just exploring what folks are doing in their own writing. I'm also really sound-based, I'm really performance-based. And so the way a work sounds is deeply important to me. I think because of the way poetry was introduced to me through the form of like poetry out loud or performance poetry, sound and performance has always been incredibly important to me. And so I always find myself kind of accessing poetry that way too. If I sit and write and I don't have any inspiration flowing, I'm like going to watch or hear other poems so that I can kind of find inspiration that way too. So yeah, it's always just interesting what everyone's experience is, and I'm sure for you all as well, it's a completely different just circumstance or experience for you all. Okay, so we've been kind of talking in circles about what it means to write in community. And question for you, Alisha, I know you said you're a baby poet, but you are in community at $2 Radio. You are in community here at Bexley Public Library, right? So what does it mean for you to essentially be in a writing community? How does being a part of the local creative community impact or even shape your work?
Oh gosh, I think it's the only reason that I'm a writer, honestly. I took a chance 2.5 years ago and went to a writing circle, and it was with some people I didn't know. I had one friend who said she might be there. She did not show up, which is just a really hard thing for me to do. I don't meet new people easily. It's very difficult for me. So, but I just felt like I needed to just try it, you know. I'm a mom of a 10-year-old, and I kind of like lost myself in motherhood and working a full-time job that's not creative for a long time. And so I was like, writing was my first love. I've been writing poems since I can remember. And so I was like, what do I have to lose? And I loved this writing circle because, again, I'm a perfectionist. It's something I've learned to shed a lot the last couple of years, but the way that this writing circle was set up was 10-minute prompt, or 3 prompts that you would have 10 minutes to write to each prompt, and you had to free write. So no editing allowed. And then the powerful piece, and this is you talking about sound, the sound of things. This is when I really learned about reading, the power of reading your work out loud. That was a huge shift for me, because in my brain, writing was like, keep it to yourself, I'd never been in a space where you read it out loud. And that was, the rule was you had to share what you were most excited about. And I shook like a leaf the first time I shared. I think I cried, because it was like, it didn't hit me until I was reading it, like how impactful that piece was to me. And they all just like, literally held me, and it was beautiful. And I did that for a full 1.5 years. And the best writing advice I received early on in that time was find your communities, because writing is lonely. It is a slog. You can get lost in the loneliness of it. And so I have reached around Columbus, I found $2 in their Village Poetry Workshop, which is just full of delightful humans who are so talented. I've learned so much from them as someone who never studied writing. So I think they taught me so much about craft, but also just about like the power of the writing community in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that speaks to like the reason why these programs need to exist, right? There's a reason why $2 radio needs to exist. There's a reason why we need public libraries, right? There's a reason why we need programming so that folks can find and be in community. It's one thing to, I think, write something individually from your own experiences, because we all know writing is a solitary practice, but it's another thing to have that thing validated by someone else, right? It's a powerful thing to have your story and your voice validated by someone else. I don't know where I would be without community. I mean, my sister sitting right here is a part of the Giovanni Collective. It's a group of Black women in the city who are writers and performers and poets, and I just have grown so much as a result of their support, their love, just their outpouring, and then just reciprocating the energy as well, right? It's not just being in community and receiving and taking, but it's also giving back. And so, I don't know where I would be without community. This writer-in-residency was incredibly important for me to find a community. It's why I even applied to begin with, because I was interested in kind of discovering a new community of folks in writing and such. And so, I just think it's important for us to kind of chat about that, and then to kind of hold this mantle of all these community programs that exist in our local. So, our last question is the prompts. What have you discovered about yourself, the world, or writing through curiosity?
Oh gosh, such a good question. So many things. I think that, so I'm a very slow processor. I have also learned that I am an external processor. So it's a very interesting dilemma to be in because I've been married to my husband for about 15 years. We got married when I was still in college. And, when we will have an argument about something, I'll go away for 2 weeks and have to sit and think about it. And then I'll need to talk about it out loud. And he's way past it. So it's been funny with writing to kind of sit with that side of myself, especially in a society that demands quickness. And it's something that I've had to sit with in myself because I have always had very high expectations of myself. I think getting, a later in life autism diagnosis, it's locked a lot of things into place for me. But I had, been trying my whole life to keep up with everyone. And I couldn't quite figure out why it was so hard all the time. So it's been interesting with writing to see people who can put out work so quickly and revise so quickly. And I have to really check myself and say no, you have to do this your way, right? So I feel like writing has taught me a lot about myself. It's taught me about, I will discover things that I didn't even realize I believed or thought. That piece that I wrote about all of my high school, middle school exes, it was fun to write that piece because I was wow, this is genuinely, honestly how I feel about all of them. And I probably would have never put that out if, I hadn't had that prompt to go off of. So it really does give me a unique way to sit with things I maybe have never fully processed through. And I think with people, too, writing has made me more curious about how everyone is so different and how people process differently, how they experience the world differently. Some people love to listen to poetry that is more flourished, that's more intelligent, whatever that means. Some people like to listen to poetry that's more straightforward. Some people don't like poetry at all. It's just fascinating to me talking to people, especially when I'm in places like libraries or bookstores, to hear about what different people like to read. My husband, not a reader. He came to that poetry slam and he was like, "You did great. This is so different." You know? So I think it's made me more fascinated than I already was about people and just how many layers everybody has, including myself. I'm always just like asking a curious, like, maybe what's under that? Like if I have an emotion come up, I think that that's really pushed my work to be like, if I say like, I felt sad, it's like, well, what else did you feel? What was under that? You know, and I think that that's really been an interesting practice to
May I have your
get
attention,
into.
please? The library closes in 15 minutes. Please check out your library materials before exiting the building. Thank you.
So yeah, that's a good stopping point.
So I know that was our prompt in the room, and I'm just gonna read a few of these responses before asking if you all have any questions for us. The poet approaches the space, finds an opening to use her voice and says, "We have discovered we are brave. We can't be comfortable with contradictions. We are innovative. We are aspiring. We are unlimited. That we are, and everything is multifaceted. That perfection is relative. We have discovered you just never know. We have discovered freedom and spontaneity. We have discovered deeper meaning, honesty, impact. We have discovered cephalopods are shockingly smart, but don't live long. We have discovered what we were made for. We have discovered things are closer than we appear. We have discovered stories left behind for us through curiosity. Can you give yourselves a huge round of applause? We are going to open up the space for a couple of questions, if you all have them, before we wrap up for the evening. Or if there are any words and phrases that folks want to continue adding to our word bureau, or tell us why you added what you added.
I have a question.
Yes.
For both of you, really, but Alisha, I think I saw on your website you're working on a novel, is that right? And then I wondered as well, Cynthia, if you write essays for fiction and like how that experience of writing different genres or forms might be for you,
Yeah.
like versus poetry.
Yeah. So for me, I wrote a lot of prose, and it started when I was getting my MFA. And prior to actually being in such a, like, getting your MFA is like a really critical space. Like, folks are like really attacking and judging your work, right? No, they want to make your work better. But prior to kind of workshopping in that way, I had always performed. I had always been on the stage. I had never really understood my voice to be quieter and more hushed and lengthy. Like, I was writing in these like really long forms, and I was just like, who is this person? Like, this is not you, Cynthia. Like, you roar, right? And you perform on stage. And so it was an interesting experience knowing that, or finding out about myself, that I could sound differently, or that in that particular season, that whatever I needed to write sounded differently than what I was used to.
Yeah, so I am working on a novel. I have never been one to allow myself to be put in any kind of box. That is a challenge from what I have heard in the literary world. I just don't care. So I have been working on a novel for about a year and a half. I am about 85% way through my first draft. Thank you. So it's been a slog. Again, I'm a mom. I have a full-time job, so I have fit it in when I can. but it is like a supernatural mystery. I have always had a love for dark things, if you couldn't tell that from my poetry. But it's been fun. I actually had a dream that was in third person, that like a scene from this essentially just like came to me in a dream, as wild as that sounds. And I woke up and I was like, I have to write this down. And it has turned into a whole novel. So yeah, still in process. I'm gonna start my revision phase, hopefully in the next 30 days is my plan, and I have a research trip planned to Rhode Island, where it's set, in October. So yeah, super fun. Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there anybody out there? Hello. Yes, Steve.
I wonder if you could say a word about your relationship with Bexley through this process. I mean, it's a place that you spent more time and have new connections, and so how, any, has your relationship with the community where the library is situated changed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible. It's been such a heartwarming experience, I think, to feel welcomed into a space. I know the library itself has kind of partnerships with the Mercy, Drexel, and I think as an artist who was kind of performing and finding community, I had visited Bexley in the past, or maybe even driven through Bexley, but to coincide, I think, this residency with my teaching artist residency at Berwick, to be here at the library doing workshops, and continuously kind of talking to young people as well as like patrons of the library. It was just a wonderful experience. I will always have a warmth in my heart for this community. And I just found it so interesting that I was welcome, though I don't live here, right? I think that that's incredibly important. There were I think LaShonda Baker came to a workshop of mine and had mentioned there's an initiative called One Bexley. Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, One Bexley. And so just learning about initiatives like that in the city as an extension of this residency, I think was important for me. Meeting folks like stakeholders in the library itself, as well as folks who have lived in Bexley for a while, was important. There was a workshop that you attended that allowed us to kind of, visit a local park nearby. And so for me, it was a lot about discovery and a lot about learning about the community and learning about the folks who live here. I think that was incredibly important for me. And just, super grateful for this experience. Yes, Zach.
What's next? Like, are you have performance spaces or
Yes.
future projects?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. Thank you for that, Zach. So I think that everything that I'm doing right now is connected to community in some way, shape, or form. So I currently work as the Arts in the Parks coordinator with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, bringing arts to the parks. And that has been just a wonderful experience, like being in service, but then chatting about different forms of art, like outside of writing, creating spaces and opportunities for artists themselves to exhibit or to, just show their work and read and feel validated and affirmed. That's incredibly important. So I'm doing that. And then personally, I recently got engaged. And so my personal life and professional life is kind of converging in a lot of different ways. But I'm finding joy in everything that I do and folks that I'm kind of connected to, and just trying to continue to find ways to be in community. Not gonna lie, I am looking forward to a more slower fall. The summer was very, very busy, and so not performing as much in community. But Zach would love to continue to be a resource to the library or to the new director of residence that's coming into this space as well. So yeah, if you all kind of see me in community or are looking for more writing and literary arts opportunities, please stay connected with me. Stay connected with the library, of course. I'm gonna pause here to see if there are any other questions before we wrap up. Yes, one more question?
Just one more.
Yes.
What's your best advice to aspiring writers to get published?
Yes. Alisha, do you have something?
I am not there yet. I will be there and eventually.
To get published, finding resources, so to speak, or what is the?
I guess, what is the best path to take? Like, do you just write it and throw it out there, or do you try to contact a company to get a contract? I don't know how it works.
Yes. So I can't speak for any other kind of professional writers or writers who have been published in the past. But there's a lot of no's in the literary world. There's a lot of rejection, and oftentimes that can feel unmotivating. Again, it can feel like someone isn't validating or affirming your work. And so, yes, I would say to reach out and to, email and contact folks in the publishing world. But I think what's more important is not letting the no's kind of discourage you and not being afraid of self-publishing, right? That's an avenue or an opportunity in which you can kind of get your work out there. And so my question to you is like, how important is it to get the work out there? And if so, is self-publishing an opportunity for you or something that you can explore when you are probably hearing a lot of no's? There's a lot of writers who also attend fellowships, residencies, they network, they make connections there, and there's opportunities to publish then from those residencies, from attending those fellowships as well.
Yeah, and I guess I could probably add a little bit just because I've been around so many people who have gone through different routes. I have friends who are indie writers, who have self-published and done pretty well. I have, known some people who have been traditionally published, poets who have gotten into anthologies or published collections. The truth is they've all had different paths. I think the biggest thing to Cynthia's point is just getting your work out there and getting comfortable with the word no. I think the other vital piece that I've heard from every single one of those people is to find your community, because they're going to help your work be the best that it can be. So find people that you trust to hold your work. Don't listen to everybody. That is a silly thing to do, because there are going to be people that will judge your work that it's not for them. So finding people that you really trust, not being afraid to make your work better, and listen to opinions you might not agree with, just to see if there's anything there. Treat it with curiosity, I guess would be my best advice. Like, instead of looking at a no as a rejection, look at it as a, why might they have said no? Maybe it wasn't right for this publication. Maybe, it's not for them. Just like taking it a step further to your whole purpose around this, around curiosity. I think treating the entire process with curiosity is only going to benefit you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We are coming
Cynthia.
up on time, yes. Thank you, Zach.
And the library is closing soon, but if everyone wants to hang out, you're more than welcome to do so. There are cupcakes and water over here. Help yourselves. Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Yes, thank you.
And Alisha.
Huge applause going for Zach, for Jackson Public Library, for Alisha Skeel, for yourself, for attending this evening. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I'd love to stay connected as well.